Good evening, Lewis.
Hello, Daniel. How are you?
I'm good. I was doing some work for the show this week, and I discovered a list about podcasts, and we are in the top 100 podcasts in Australia.
I would love to know what the title of that list is. 10 podcasts. We just wish we're a little bit better.
Can you guess what number we were on this list?
I mean, out of 100, are we in the nervous 90s?
Yes.
Knew it. Feels good to have just scraped in.
Well, we're more than that. We're 97. We had 97 on this top 100 list. There you go, 97.
Everything rides on this podcast. If it's good, we could be, getting down to number one. If it fucks up, and this is to our beautiful guests about to join us, if you fuck this up and we slip outside the 100, we will come for you.
Hey, I've got a new idea for our Patreon members. I thought the next 10 Patreon members who give us $50 a month, I've got this thing for the election that I'd like to do, which would be to put up plaques around the seat of Cook saying, on this spot during a national crisis, Scott Morrison did nothing. And I thought it'd be just really wonderful to have these plaques going, much like the plaque we put out the front of Engadine McDonald's, commemorating Scott Morrison pooing his pants at the 2003 Super League Grand Final. But this one, I thought, well, if someone gives us $50, we'll put their name on it as well to dedicate it to them.
Right.
So
if someone gives us $50,000, can we do a marble statue of just a man doing nothing in a Hawaiian shirt, dropping a hose?
Yes. We'll put it up in Sutherland Shire so everyone can go and pay homage to it. So that's it for Patreon. Head over to Patreon, patreon.com/irrational fear and drop us $50 and we'll put your name on a plaque too. I'm recording my end of Irrational Fear on Gadigal land in the Eora Nation. Sovereignty was never ceded. We need a treaty. Let's start the show. Tonight, Australia's richest performers, the Wiggles, will go broke if they go woke. That's according to Matt Canavan, writing in The Australian, which hasn't turned a profit since 1964. And damning reports from a Catholic media organisation reveals priests in the US and the Vatican are on Grindr, meaning they're receiving much more than the body of Christ. And Qantas released a brand new ad that depicts a world where Australians could fly internationally again. It's been so successful that it's made every shareholder cry. It's the 27th of August 2021 and eject that DVD of the Croods. This is Irrational Fear. Hello, welcome to Irrational Fear. I'm your host, former Premier of Tasmania. Let's meet our Fearmongers for tonight. She's the host of 3 podcasts and a guest on many more. She's a zinger, slinger and a banjo swinger. It's Alice Fraser. Welcome.
Hello, Dan Ilic. Pleasure to be here. I mean, I'm here where I've been since lockdown began 2 months ago, but psychologically I'm with you.
And he's the non sequitur, stuck in a room without any toys at all. Yes, he's in hotel quarantine in Perth. Ross Noble.
Hello.
How are you faring in lockdown quarantine again, Ross?
You know what? I cannot be doing with these people that just go like, "Oh my God, I'm locked up inside." I've done it now. I did 2 weeks in hotel quarantine. I've done 4 weeks quarantining in my own home as well.
Right.
And, wow. I know some people struggle with it, but you could not find a human being more equipped to deal with just being in a room, just in their own head. I miss my family. Like, it's one of those things where if I didn't have a wife and 2 children, I would literally just do this. I do this all the time. Why?
What? Guesting on people's podcasts?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, that is, I know not everyone can just meet people out in the
Dan just has like a Google alert set for comedian in quarantine, and as soon as he sees it, he's like, "Hello, I notice you have literally nothing else to do. Would you like to come on our podcast?"
It's weird. It comes up on the app. There's a thing where you put your thing in, and it's and it alerts all podcasts.
You're like, "Would you like to check into this hotel?" Yes. Would you like to check into Irrational Fear? Inevitably, yes.
Yeah, we've had more guests on from hotel quarantine than the COVID Safe app has actually found people with COVID. Right. It's been really good. And finally, he's the uptown girl of podcasting. It's Lewis Hobba.
Hello. Yeah, that's right. Boy, for a person who'd never listened to Billy Joel until about a month ago, boy, have I listened to a lot of Billy Joel in the last month. There's something about the dad level emotion that is really appropriate for lockdown. Like it gives you a hint of emotion. It's like a memory of emotion, but it doesn't actually make you feel anything, which means you're in no danger of bursting into tears in public.
What's your favorite Billy Joyell song?
Oh, well, I'm so glad you asked. If listeners of the podcast would know that a few weeks ago in a bit of a lockdown panic, when I ran out of things to do, I bought a children's keyboard and decided to learn piano. And so the song I picked, because it just happened to be on a random shuffle playlist at the time, was Billy Joel's Vienna. So now that's probably my favorite Billy Joel song.
Okay.
Yeah. Go, Ross. Could I put forward as a challenge that you that you play the Ultravox classic Vienna, and you work your way through all of the songs entitled Vienna, and then when you get out of the quarantine, when it all I think you could tour that show. Do you like
Vienna?
Do it. You never play Vienna. You never play the Vienna show in Vienna. And you go directly up against, old Andre Rieu. He can't help himself. He's always bothering people in Vienna. You know,
I would love to be the guy that takes down Rieu.
It's got it.
For every person that Rieu bothers, there are 10 old ladies for whom he is the pinnacle of their sexual enlightenment.
Wow. Well, it's funny, isn't it? It's because when an old lady dies at a Rieu concert, 2 more grow in their place. They're like
the Andre Hydra.
But how good is Rieu? The fact that he managed, nobody since Kevin Bloody Wilson managed to infiltrate Australian petrol stations around the country with this. You could literally
not only that, like you can line up at a post office and there's like Andre Rieu on DVD. Like, who is buying Andre Rieu?
I'm telling you, a friend of mine did contact juggling with those glass balls, and he would do that busking in markets. And the number of ladies who approached him to come and do a strip show as the Goblin King from the Labyrinth. I feel like Andre was incredibly high, like disproportionately high. So I would say that Andre Rieu is that for the postmenopausal demographic. He is that moment of sexual awakening.
What you've hit on there, though, right? Which, and I'm sure this is old news to you. You'll know this, right? But the guy that did the glass ball manipulation was a guy called Michael Moshen. Did you know that?
We all know Moshen.
So Michael Moshen was the guy that was behind Bowie and was doing all the stuff with the balls and that now makes me happy to think that, like, basically he is a Michael Moshen impersonator, and he's getting the ladies, because even Moshen, even though the fact he was the most highly skilled glass ball manipulator, I don't think that's enough to get the ladies.
No, when you're the best in the world and you're also the only person who does it, it's not necessarily that impressive.
Oh, no. People do it. Well, Alice's friend does it. He's out there trying to. Where does he do this glass ball manipulation?
It just sort of markets, busking. It seems to work. It seems like David Bowie in The Labyrinth is the equivalent of Princess Leia in the Star Wars for that generation. That's the moment of suddenly realizing.
Dexterous hands on an old lady's body.
Coming up on the podcast, we have Simon Holmes Accord. He's popping by to tell us about a cunning plan to short circuit party politics in Australia. We'll ask him if he's actually Clive Palmer in disguise. But first, here is a message from this week's sponsor. At the Australian government, we know that coal-powered electricity plants are running out of time. On one hand, they're old, expensive, and make climate change worse every minute they run. But on the other hand, the coal industry also provides critical baseload donations to the LNP. So that's why we're launching Coalkeeper. We're spending $7 billion a year to keep coal-powered polluting clunkers running way past their use-by date. That way, the LNP can get more donations from the coal industry to stay way past our use-by date. The government could invest in new wind, solar and storage, but renewable energy is too clean to give us donations. Coalkeeper. A reliable source of donations at the cost of only $400 per household per year. end everyone's existence. This week's first fear in Great Barrier Reef news. Sexually frustrated sea snakes are making scuba divers potential mates. Yes, a study from the Macquarie University has confirmed the reasons why sea snakes in the reef are sidling up to divers and wrapping themselves around their fins and licking the water around them is because the males, who have poor eyesight, mistake scuba divers for female sea snakes. Fearmongers, does this make you less or more inclined to go diving on the reef? Ross?
Well, I mean, what an excellent excuse. What an excellent excuse. They're going for the old filthy Magoo tactic, aren't they? Oh, I'm really blind. Oh, I've made a terrible error. Oh, I'm so sorry. I seem to have entangled myself. It's a Me Too nightmare. And
aren't nipples just a very simple form of braille?
Exactly. I wonder what just 2 dots. I wonder what that spells in Braille.
No, thank you.
Because it's like because ... in Morse code, that's S, isn't it? So S. So it would just be S. If you touch a lady's breasts, it makes the sound of air coming out.
Makes the sound of a regular snake, and they're like, "Well, I'm a sea snake. You seem to be a regular snake. Let's make this work."
Yeah,
I find this really positive and hopeful that even the sea snakes are saying they have bad eyesight, or the scientists are saying the sea snakes have bad eyesight. I'm not going to put words in the mouths of the sea snakes, but the sea snakes are clearly attracted to the divers, even if they have bad eyesight. I feel like this is a positive sign that sea snakes like a bit of junk in the trunk.
Or they're into wetsuit fetish. That could be quite high on the
neoprene.
list.
Yeah.
Who knew?
I personally, as someone who has been in lockdown for about 3 months, I've never wanted to scuba dive more. I just want to be touched.
This is interesting here. It says the males tend to flick out their tongues. However, the most striking behavior occurred after 13 incidences where males rapidly chased divers underwater when they swam away. A researcher said females don't do any chasing. They do the fleeing during mating. So swimming away from a male snake is mimicking courtship behavior. Alice, is there anything... I don't think I've actually felt more in common with a snake ever. This is incredible.
This makes me feel like I feel a real burden of responsibility now to sort of educate female sea snakes about taking control of your own sexuality and going after what you want. I'm not sure that I am equipped to fully communicate with sea snakes on such complex matters as consent.
It's so interesting. Like the researchers said they suspected the snakes chased after divers after they failed a mating attempt. So the divers themselves are like sloppy seconds. They were just like, they're like a rebound person. It's clear that the most approaches to divers were males who'd lost contact with females they were pursuing. Oh my God. Imagine how sad you are being a diver, realizing that you're not the number one choice.
Yeah. It also just sounds like kind of the beginning of the eel incel movement.
The incel movement.
Ross, on the comments of that Mirror article, there was one there from 3 days ago from a guy called Jonathan Wilder. It said, I was scuba diving with a friend in a black wetsuit and a seal became very interested. It was funny at the time, but it was a large animal.
Seal. An actual seal. Lord.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Well, if somebody, it's an old joke, but if somebody comes out of the water, what's up with your diving gear? I blew a seal. I blew a seal on the tank. Well, if you can't get a snake, get what you can.
This week's second fear. If you listened to last week's podcast, we spoke a lot about OnlyFans, the website that allows horny people to pay money for sexy people to show them sexy bits so they can get off and move on with the rest of their day. Well, the very next day, OnlyFans made an incredible, shocking announcement. They said they were not going to allow any sexually explicit content, and they were going to demand users verify their identities with government IDs, which completely ruins the entire business model for very horny secret agents. Of course, users and creators have made millions of dollars on this platform and they totally flipped out. And now, as of today, OnlyFans totally backflipped on their plans to make themselves a model of decorum. So, Fearmongers, was OnlyFans right to backflip on being totally frigid, Alice?
Well, look, I want to talk. I want to talk about OnlyFans and Pornhub. I want to talk about the whole porn industry over the whole last month, because much like when you use a thing that you just bought on stage as a prop so you can write it off on tax, I'm seeking to provide a reference point for future curious explorers that will explain my search history. And boy, have I been researching this piece of satirical news for a long time. Actually, I don't watch internet pornography. I'm not against it in principle. I just think a lot of it is mainly geared to a very specific taste, which is to say people who are very turned on by very bad acting. And my dealer of choice for that is the Fast and the Furious movies. But it has been...
Whoa, hang on. You can't. I mean, you can level a lot towards them. They sent a car into space on the last one. And the car went into space. That's when the car went off the cliff and the plane comes in and is grabbed by a magnet. They're not in that car. They're in a green screen booth, and you genuinely believe that they're getting picked up by the car. So shame on you.
Don't get me wrong. I am an advocate for the Fast and the Furious movies. The scene in which Jason Statham rescues Vin Diesel's infant child in a baby seat, and he puts noise-cancelling headphones on the baby so it doesn't hear him killing all the people, is genuinely one of the more emotional filmic experiences of my life. It's very moving that he decides...
Jason Statham.
I feel like
Ross, I feel like I should be paying you for that on OnlyFans.
I should do that, actually. I should do like a sort of AMR. What is it? The AMSR? Or is that what they call it?
ASMR?
Get yourself in a bed. It's time to relax with Jason Statham's bedtime stories. I'm coming to find you. I love Steve.
I cannot tell you how much that's enjoying.
I have two challenges in my life. One is to watch every Nicolas Cage film ever made, and the other one is to watch every Jason Statham film he's ever released. And I'm doing well. I'm getting there.
A great
couple of weeks of lockdown.
A great Nick Cage film to watch this week, of course, is The Croods.
Yes, of course.
The Croods, of course.
He does appear as a He's done several bits of voice work. Of course, he's into the Spider-Verse. Anyway, sorry, carry on.
Yeah. He's great. He's great in Into the Spider-Verse.
Pig. Have you seen Pig?
Yes.
He has this upcoming film where he plays a truffle hunter whose favorite pig gets kidnapped. And he goes off, and you'd think it would be John Wick with a pig, but apparently not. Anyway, sorry, I interrupted.
Different podcast.
That's all right.
Only fans.
I mean, we've gone off tangent, but it has been a bumper month for the adult entertainment industry. I did think about saying a banger month, but that would have felt a bit forced and artificial. Waka waka, that's what she said. First, Pornhub a couple of weeks ago launched their controversial classic nudes series. So it was sold as an interactive guide to some of the erotic art that can be found in major museums around the world, to which some of the major museums around the world objected. In particular, the Uffizi did not like Pornhub's use of Titian's 1538 masterpiece, Venus of Urbino, as the basis of a pornographic reenactment with the amateur adult couple known as My Sweet Apple. And it's a very divisive series because the people who like their pornography a little bit mucky thought that this was too pretentious, and then art history majors thought it was too inaccurate in its use of egg tempera. And then, of course, OnlyFans, the alternative to the big hubs for those who like their sexy pictures locally sourced from individual vendors like the boner version of a farmer's market, announced that it would be dropping adult content from its platform, not because it was being prurient, but because some payment processors threatened to withhold payment processing, and therefore people wouldn't be able to get paid, like the ancient Greek play Lysistrata, in which the ladies of the plot go on a sex strike to achieve a political goal, but the opposite of that if ladies were banks and sex was financial processing software. Of course, when OnlyFans announced that they were going to pull out on the one thing they're famous for providing, only a very small sub-niche of people felt positive about being thus egregiously cock-blocked, and then the ones who did enjoy it had to have it explained to them that this would mean no more cock-blocking, content. And then they also joined in on the condemnation. And then OnlyFans has walked it back. They found a payment processor who's willing to process payments so we can all continue to masturbate as usual. And by usual, I don't mean to suggest that there's any normal that we should be aiming for.
Don't yuck my yum, Alice. Thank you.
Yeah, even if my yum is in the Ephesus Museum.
Well, I think just Ross Noble's impersonation of Jason Statham has revealed new depths to my sexuality that I had hitherto not suspected. Thanks for that.
I would strap yourself in because I've got a plan. I'm gonna directly after this. I'm gonna strip naked and recreate Rodin's The Thinker.
And that is for Patreon members only, so make sure you sign up to Patreon/Irrational.
I also like the whole the when they said, "Oh, we can't do it because of the banks." I was just like, the temerity of the banks. I'm like,
this is the thing.
How dare you? Have you seen anything that you've done over the last 2,000 years since Jesus kicked you out of the place where you were banking? Ever since then, it's been bad, and now this. The nerve of you people.
The idea that any money is too dirty for a bank.
Yeah, they're like, oh, I'm worried about showing some cock and balls there, but we should definitely try and get some more money out of that dead woman.
There seems to be a thing that the banks. Have you noticed that, like, you know, how banks used to be like a place, and you'd go in and you'd like get your money and that, and then now you look at all the adverts, and it's like it's people walking next to each other, hand in hand. There's a lot of horse riding. It's all about support. It's all of the imagery is it's about we're your friends, we're here for you, we're human people. And maybe they thought that if they got involved in all that, they would have to have at some point there'd just be dick pic, and then like these ladies putting their tits on the glass. When you go into
whoa, we're not that human.
I mean, this is the thing, for the banks to pull the plug on this kind of content is just so dreadful, given that a large proportion of their sort of day-to-day one-person income is just from overdraft fees, which is to say fining people for being poor.
I do like that idea. I'd love to see the Commonwealth Bank ad that was like, which bank? The Wank Bank.
This week's third fear. Now, the AFP spent 2 months on an elaborate April Fool's joke that never went anywhere. So I don't know if you know about the AFP, the police. They've got a wacky sense of humour. They sent an email around canvassing ideas a couple of months out from April Fools, and they were wondering, asking the staff, like, "Hey guys, how can we participate in April Fools?" In the email they sent around, they said, "Please keep in mind when brainstorming sensitivities in public opinion at the moment, and please consider how each of your ideas may be perceived." It's almost like they knew that this was actually going to have a FOI request when they sent this email out. Now, according to the FOI that was published in the Crikey, a whole bunch of the ideas were blacked out, except for one, which was a parody of the infamous Canberra hot air balloon, the Sky Whale, except they're going to Photoshop it and put a whole bunch of surveillance cameras on each of the nipples with a little AFP cap and call it Spy Whale. Fearmongers, is this creepy alien-like creature with videos of cameras attached to it? Would you appreciate this joke from the AFP, Lewis?
No, I mean, obviously, you don't want the AFP doing bits. You know what I mean? Like, that's what it would be like the AFP started a podcast. You're like, no, just stay in your lane. Just keep bugging East Timor or whatever it is that you do, and stay out of the joke. Stay out of the joke business.
So this is exactly like what Ross Noble was saying before about the banks. Like, we don't need these institutions to be personable. We need them to be effective at their jobs.
Efficient, yeah.
Yeah.
So two things happened after this came back. They went and the AFP people sent it to somebody in government, the ACT government, to check on it, to see if they liked the idea. And it came back and they said, to pitch it to them, because someone internally at the AFP thought spy whale had a bit of a negative connotation. So they thought they would change the name to CSI whale, which is a really terrible joke. It doesn't even make sense. So they checked with the ACT government. The government said no. And the email got sent around the AFP to let people know. And they said, we just got the sky whale concept approved from our end, but when it reached the ACT government, they advised us due to rules, regulations, and copyright issues, we weren't allowed to do it. Sad face. Now, I don't know anything about rules and regulations, but I do know something about copyright regulations. The spy whale is perfect under satire and parody laws. Like, this is something we would do all the time as comedians. However, CSI whale is a really shit pun and just wouldn't even pass.
The one thing I do have sympathy for, and I don't say this very often about ASIO, but it was just a draft. You know what I mean? Like, this never got to approval. And all of us, if someone started reading our drafts, could be in a lot of trouble. You know what I mean? Like, none of us have perfect first drafts.
But Lewis, spy whale was pretty good. CSI whale was a terrible revision. A terrible revision.
I mean, I absolutely have to agree with Lewis Hobba here. I'm adamantly against the current trend in news to give us pre-news, sort of guessing what the news is about to be, rather than actually telling us what may or may not be happening in the world. So I feel like this is an example of that, of just saying a thing that might have happened but actually didn't happen, and we should all turn our faces from the spy whale and move on
Ross,
to the old future.
I would tend to agree with you there, but for me, I have an alert on my phone for any what I like to call blimp news. anything that involves a blimp, an airship, any form of floating dirigible, I'm all on board. Because
you know, Ross, I actually, you have left a legacy at Triple J that has caused me some real distress, and it is blimp related.
Was it the Nana?
So do you want to explain? This was many years ago, long before I worked there. Ross did. I think you did a summer, and I actually remember listening to it when I was at high school. And
the idea,
it was fair. Yeah, do you tell the idea?
So I was just going to say. So the idea was that I decided it'd be a bit of a laugh to do some radio. So myself and Terry Siakis, what we would do, we did it for a couple of years, where we deliberately went in over the Christmas holidays when the building was empty, and the bosses at Triple J basically went, "Yeah, just do what you like." So we took that on board as like, I had this thing where I said that it's impossible to break an egg with your buttocks, and I was just joking, but it turns out it's impossible to crack an egg with your arse. So we had people ringing in with eggs up their arse. We had live chickens in the studio. I brought in some of my pants, and we sent 4 sets of pants around Australia. So we said, come to the studio. Some bloke turned up at the studio, and he said, I'm driving to Sydney. So we sent 1 set of pants that way, and then we'd have meeting points where people were meeting up in town squares to exchange the pants. And in 2 weeks, we got 4 sets of pants fully around Australia, both directions, up north and back, and to Tasmania and back. So it's not commercial radio, but
but I think when I first started there, my boss at the time, who's no longer the boss, but he was the boss who was there when you were there, and he loved that. He loved that idea. So, like, nothing we could do would ever make him as happy as that idea. And we would sit down and we would pitch him these ideas that we had, great ideas, and he would look at it and be like,
where's the yolks, guys? Any more yolks
around Australia? And we're just like, there's no pants in this idea.
No, here's the mistake that you made. You were pitching ideas, whereas what we did was we'd turn those mics on, we'd start talking, and then literally things would start happening. You can't be planning stuff out. You've just got to. I actually made a TV show based on the similar principle. I made a TV show in England where we went to the TV channel and said, we're going to get tweets in every day, and then whatever the people are up to, we're just going to go out there, and the whole show is going to be based on what people want on Twitter. And they went, but you're going to plan it because we're going to give you a load of money and 15 people in the film crew. And I went, no. And then so we did that. Yeah, just think it, do it. And are you talking about the Nana though? We got a
Nana into space or something.
We had a cardboard cutout of an old lady that somebody'd stolen from a mobility shop, and then we divided it up into sections on the website so people could download a full-size jigsaw of an old lady, print it out, put it together themselves, photograph themselves with the Nana, and then we got the original Nana, strapped her to helium balloons, let her go in the middle of Melbourne, and then got the listeners to ring in, and we had a map, and we were spotting her as she flew across Australia. Yeah. And a lot of people, funny enough, got, because obviously it's not very environmentally friendly, releasing a plastic Nana into the sky. But so we had a lot of people very angry because they thought she was going to end up in the mouth of a whale. But
being humped by an eel.
Yeah, and it ended up she landed in New South Wales. We put our address on it, and a year later we got her back. So
that's amazing. It is amazing.
Yes.
Well, there you go. Well, Lewis, you should pitch more dirigible ideas.
Don't pitch.
It's gone now. The legacy of that.
Just think of an idea, let it come out of your head, and then act on it before anyone has a chance to say no. That's the way to live your life.
Forgiveness, not permission.
Exactly.
Right now, we're going to play Hang On A Sec. I'll play you a clip of video. If you want to comment it, just say Hang On A Sec and I'll stop the tape. This week's Hang On A Sec comes from the ACT and New South Wales COVID update press conferences. Now, it all started with John Barilaro earlier in the week this week claiming that traces of COVID were found in the Merimbula sewage treatment plants, and he blamed those traces on people from Canberra making their way to the South Coast. So naturally, the ACT Chief Minister, Andrew Barr, was asked about it multiple times, and he quite frankly appeared to crack the shits. Here we go.
There were some COVID fragments found in the sewage in Merimbula. There's some speculation that Canberrans are to blame for that. Can you provide any clarity on that situation?
Oh, hang on, let me just do it this way because it's.
Can I just say that the sign interpreter did the most magnificent signing of poo coming out and being dispersed.
Yeah, and also the face she did was like it was gross. She was like, "Oh, this is yuck."
Here we go. Hang on.
Some COVID fragments found in the sewage in Merimbula. There's some speculation that Canberrans are to blame for that.
Wow, love it.
Can you provide any clarity on that?
That
literally. Just say, hang on a sec. Say, hang on a sec, Ross. Say, hang on a sec, then say a joke. Yeah.
That's very formal. Hang on a sec. Now say a joke.
Yeah. We'll fix it up. We'll fix it up in post.
You know what? The moment's gone. Come on.
No.
Right, go on.
Situation?
No, I don't know where the sewage fragments have come from. There's
hang on a sec. I think what we need here is some sort of large surveillance thing that has maybe some sort of oversight over the whole region. Some sort of CSI.
Could you imagine?
Sky whale with nipples, cameras attached to nipples.
How much shit is going to be spread all over the area if you've got a full-size whale floating across the
full-size whale with a black light just hovering over the Australian Capital Territory.
Over New South Wales, so it's just as likely to be from New South Wales. I don't think the sewage detection is quite that sophisticated to be able to tell whether it's a Canberran's poo or someone else's.
Hang on
a second.
Yeah, I think we need a sewerage sommelier who's just like pulling it out and swilling it around, going, "This COVID? Oh, that's New South Wales terroir."
I would recommend that anybody in the ACT now, you get those little flags that you get on fancy cheeses to tell you what they are. Why not do a particularly firm stool, stick the little thing in there, and hope that it lasts all the way down? Is he? Because he's talking about, it might just be because he's talking about poo, and it might be the shape of his glasses. But does he look exactly like Mr. Garrison from South Park?
No, totally he does.
He really does.
Yeah.
Possible.
I'm sorry to bring
Hang
up
on a
the
second.
Merimbula sewage.
Yeah.
What just happened to the sign
They
interpreter?
switched out. They switched
so
them out
this is-
very
this is-
regularly.
This is
Oh,
this is later. This is later. This is
Okay, this is-
the next
that's
question. Yeah, a
that's
few
a
they
questions
have an
down the line.
incredible union. The
Yeah, it's
Simons.
like
Oh.
when they tried to
Because-
change that actor in Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and everyone got angry.
It really did. It really did look like she just got closer to the camera. I genuinely thought she'd rushed the screen there.
Very generous.
Again, John Barilaro has directly pointed at the ACT as the cause of that. What is your response to
Well, what
Ms.
does John know something about the poo that other people don't? I don't know where he's getting that from. I mean, if he's got scientific evidence that can back it up that it's Canberra poo, okay, all right. But I mean, seriously, I'm
Hang
just
on a
not
minute.
interested.
I love the rage, like the simmering rage that he has to address himself to this question is truly astonishing. I look as someone who's not particularly enjoying this weird state versus state tenor that the recent COVID update coverage has taken. I sort of agree with him, but he's furthering this.
I don't mind the state versus state. I feel like it's good for us. It gives us content to talk about, but that's about it. Like, it's not good for the country, but as comedians, I quite enjoy it.
Have you done that thing of like, and I bet you Morrison can't believe his luck, can he? Because everyone's he's just sneaked off to the shed. He's reading the newspaper, and like every now and again you go, oh yeah, there's a prime minister, isn't there? Do you remember that? Instead of them all, you know what I mean? It's a clever little technique that.
There we go.
Yeah,
Sorry,
until
with
this
this. Go, Alice.
Go, Lewis.
I was going to say, the way that he speaks about John Barilaro, like, I feel like John Barilaro would hear people talk about him in this tone so much that he doesn't even register it anymore. Like, I think John Barilaro would think this tone is normal tone because people are just being like,
This is not
I think
passive-aggressive
for
tone.
him, it's like standing in the water in like Castaway so that the fish can't see you anymore. Like, exasperated for him is just ground zero normal.
Yeah.
Is the Barilaro, you might not know this, is you know how you had the piano and then you had the pianola thing that played itself?
Yeah.
Well, a barrel organ that plays itself is known as a Barilaro.
There you go.
There you go.
Well, and until this COVID crisis, I wouldn't have recognized any individual state leader, probably not even our own. So the fact that ScoMo, as you say, has slunk into the background and let these others take the foreground is extremely peculiar.
I love the fact that Daniel Andrews is. I love it. I love the fact that if you look at all of the people who are sponsored, like I'm into climbing. If you look at all the people who are sponsored by North Face, they're like they've got a very particular look, and yet he is the most prominent face of North Face. And all of these incredible world-class climbers don't even come. If you said to who's the face of North Face? Well, it's Andrews, isn't it? 100%. These people have climbed since they were tiny, and he's done the lot. He can't even go downstairs. He cannot even go downstairs.
We should get Gladys Berejiklian in a jacket for the about face. That'll work. That'll be good.
Ah, very good.
He
very
climbed
good.
a ladder of like all, politics is a ladder. He's climbed something.
Good, yes. I don't think North Face are going for metaphors when it comes to I was thinking I was going to metaphorically go into the wilderness. My career's over. Oh, we've got just the jacket for you, sir. Try our metaphor range.
It's waterproof. It's fire resistant. It's extremely powerful in an emotional communication forum.
Who it was arguments with John Barilaro at the moment, to be honest. Jasper.
Question for the Deputy Chief Health Officer if everyone's...
No more questions on sewerage? No, okay. All right, well, look, thank you very much. I'll hand over to the Deputy Chief Health Officer.
Amazing.
That was great. That was really good work from Andrew Marr, I think. Yeah, very good.
He did well to keep it together. Also, just being like in modern world, who'd have thought that we'd have had like national leaders just sitting there for 10 minutes just answering sewerage questions? It seems like a prank.
It's actually there. It's perfect. Joining us now on let me bring Simon in. Here we go. Get rid of this one. How do I get rid of this? Oh, man.
Hey,
There we go. There we go. Great.
Nice.
Joining us now on Irrational Fear is a friend of the show. He's one of Twitter's favourite energy nerds. It's Simon Holmes at Court. Welcome, Simon.
Thank you very much. Great to be on again.
Now, Simon, this week you've launched quite a compelling idea to imagine Australian politics without the major parties calling the shots. My question is, are you working for Clive Palmer?
I wonder if we've got the same strategy. Certainly different intentions. Yeah. Certainly different intentions, yes.
Tell us about this big idea that you launched this week.
So this week I launched Climate 200, which is an organisation that's trying to get us out of the stalemate that we are in Australian politics right now. So we have been stuck, as you all would know, without a climate policy in Australia. Really, for about 20 years, it's been a political football, and it's been, arguably, we've gone backwards from where we were with Kevin 07. That was probably the high point of Australian political or climate policy. We've seen in the last few years the massive opportunity with strong climate independence. So Zali Steggall, Helen Haines, before that, Cathy McGowan, Andrew Wilkie. We've seen a parliament where strong crossbenchers can make a difference. Now they won't have ultimate impact on politics until they have the balance of power. But as we head into the next election, we have, I think it's a once in a generation opportunity for independents to hold the crossbench. And in that situation, they will negotiate with they will negotiate for strong climate policy.
That's a really compelling idea, particularly for people who want to see climate action in Australia. And I think that is a lot of Australians. That's something like 80% of Australians want to see meaningful climate action. But what is the reality of that? Like, how many seats are going to be fragile enough to kind of lend themselves to a climate independent, an independent where climate is the centre of their policy?
Yeah, so it's crazy close at the moment. You need 76 seats to have a majority government in Australia, and that's what the coalition has right now. They also they have Craig Kelly and Bob Katter's vote. Now, for Labor to win the next election outright, they would need to win 8 seats, and even then, well, I don't know how much faith can we have that we'll have a strong climate policy when just last night and this morning they voted for fossil fuel again and again. So we've got this opportunity.
Yeah, approving the Beetaloo Basin gas in Northern Territory. That is insane. It's like Labor talk a big game, but they never ever followed up with actual action.
Yeah. I mean, just this morning there was a bill. It turns out that our export finance organisation in Australia's export finance organisation has been funding fossil fuel projects overseas. There was a motion put up by an independent, by Zali Steggall to get to release the information on which projects were funded and tell us more about that program. And both Labor and the coalitions voted that one down. So we need, we had that amazing period back in 2010 to 13 when Labor was in minority government with some strong crossbenchers. I don't know if many people will remember Rob Oakeshott, Tony Windsor, Andrew Wilkie and Adam Bant formed a strong crossbench that Labor worked with, and they developed the carbon price. The Clean Energy Finance Corporation, which is still going great guns, ARENA, which has done so much good work bringing in renewables into Australia. So we've seen that the major parties, when they're forced to deal with the crossbench, and even at the end of the last parliamentary term, it was the crossbenchers that brought in the Medivac that brought so many sick refugees back from Manus and Nauru back to Australia. So we've seen that it works, and we are so close. Just 3 more independents, 3 more Zali Steggall, Helen Haines type, and we wake up on election, the morning after election, with a different country.
So I saw a question before, which I would like to ask you, which is, how do you know which independents are just saying whatever they will say to get a vote, and how can we hold them accountable? Is there any way we can sort of attach maybe some sort of electrode testicle thing so that once they're in power, we can hold them accountable by pressing some sort of button?
Look, the thing is the thing is we know that the major party candidates or incumbents are not accountable to their community. They first and foremost always go with the party line. I mean, whether you're Trent Zimmerman or Josh Frydenberg or Dave Sharma, you've got the same voting record as Craig Kelly, George Christensen, Matt Canavan, right? They all vote the same way. So whereas if you have an independent, they are absolutely accountable to their community. If they don't live up to their community's expectations, they are absolutely out next time, and they know it. They listen first and foremost to their community, not to any party whip.
So what is the feeling out there in different electorates that might be open to the idea of an independent? What's the zeitgeist like? What do you feel like people are saying?
Yeah, we're really inspired. We were really inspired by it. So Kathy McGowan, the independent member for Indi, who was she did three terms, and then handed over to Helen Haynes at the last election. I think the first ever independent to independent transition. She ran a forum at the beginning of this year and had people from 78 electorates around Australia turn up to a forum called Getting Elected. And a lot of those communities have gone on from strength to strength. They've formed, you hear all around Australia, there's voices of Mackellar, voices of Hume, voices of Kooyong, often these voices groups. And they where they are very strong, where they've found a good candidate, we will step up and help them. They've got to do the hard work. They've got to raise most of the money, but we'll be in there helping them with strategy and helping them with the necessary finances to come up against the incumbents.
There's a lot of these groups out there, as you say, but there's rarely any independent name attached yet. There's really a candidate name attached yet. How soon do you think candidates will start appearing? Like, how soon will actual names start popping up?
Takes a while for a Thunderdome to play out.
Yeah, and that is going on. There are some communities are doing public forums in Hume. They've been trying to run a forum. COVID keeps shutting it down, but a forum where 5 candidates will get up in front and the community will pre-select them in a sort of open pre-selection. Others are talking, interviewing. But look, think about Warringah last time. There was such a strong local campaign. There was Voices of Warringah. There was a Vote Tony Out campaign, people wearing the t-shirts around town. There was Time's Up Tony. There were about 5 or 6 different groups who all were fixated on the same thing, which was replacing Tony Abbott with an independent. And once it was, and they had a real head of steam, and they had an article in the local paper talking about all these things. And Zali Steggall, reading the paper one morning, saw that and went, "Hang on, that's me. I could do that." And so it's a bit chicken and egg. You're not going to get I mean, there are not many Zali Steggalls out there in Australia. There are plenty of people. There are dozens of people like that who have got who are a whole package, but they're not going to stand up until they know the community's behind them. They've got a funded campaign, and they're risking a lot to stand up in front of an incumbent.
So you think the candidates are waiting to see momentum first before they jump in and
I think you'll start hearing more of these coming around about the October timeframe.
Yeah, right. Critics of the plan will probably say you're just going to take seats away or take votes away from Labor and the Greens and probably just gift the LNP another term. Could you live with yourself if that ever happened, Simon?
Look, we will only run in strategic seats. And strategic seats are ones that are going to tip the balance in favour of climate action and integrity. I can't at the moment imagine that the Greens or Labor would lose too much out of this strategy. Think about Karen Phelps. Actually, Karen Phelps in her by-election, they managed to convince a whole bunch of Labor and Greens voters to change their vote and put Karen first, and it got her in the by-election. We did some analysis recently that if just 1,100 Labor voters had put Karen in front of the Libs, then Karen would have got back in. Right, wow. So some things can be so finely balanced that sometimes, in a lot of these
1,100. That's such a small number. That's like a Ross Noble preview for a comedy festival show.
Yeah, no,
Those
it's,
were the days.
really our politics are so finely balanced right now.
Great. Well, Simon, thank you so much for joining us on Irrational Fear. Just quickly, the other bit of interesting climate news that happened today was that a whole bunch of bushfire survivors won a huge legal stoush with the New South Wales government. Now the New South Wales EPA has been ordered by the courts to actually do something about climate change. Is that?
Yeah, that
sounds
incredible.
It sounds weird.
Incredible.
Shouldn't the EPA already been doing things about climate change?
Yeah, well, it was the very first time. It's a landmark case. First time that Australian court has ruled to force a government agency to take action on climate change. They found the agency failing to perform its statutory duty to address climate change. And what's great is that they compelled the EPA to follow its own legislation. So we don't need any new laws. They're just telling them, no, this is an interpretation. You can start, or you must start tomorrow. So,
oh my God,
it is big. It's really
very
big.
hard to force specific performance in law. So that's a really landmark case.
Can we
imagine how long you could do your job before someone was like, I'm going to get a judge to tell you that you should start doing your job. You're like, this has been sweet. I've been getting paid for 40 years.
Is it possible to get the same court to get the minister for emissions reduction to start reducing emissions? Is that also possible?
Oh, gee, wouldn't that be good? But look, it was only about 2 months ago that the environment minister was told by a court that she had a duty of care to children, and she's appealing that decision. She is taking it back to the court to say, no, I do not have a duty of care to the future generations of Australians. So let's hope.
Is that Cruella de Vil? Is she like, who is?
Yeah. Well, Susan
Lay,
Susan Double Slay. Yes,
Wow.
used to have one S in a name, and now it has two because the numerology worked out that way. But
that is very unfortunate initialization. Gosh.
Slay. So they're appealing that at the federal level, but hopefully, in New South Wales, I hope that Matt Keane is smart enough to make it very clear that he's not going to go and ask the EPA to appeal that decision. Let's hope New South Wales does the right thing, and it's great start to finally get the courts to compel our government to do its job.
Yeah. Well, Simon, thank you so much for joining us on Irrational Fear. And big thank you to all of our guests tonight. Alice Fraser, Ross Noble, Lewis Hobba. Well done. That was a great show. Do you guys have anything to plug? Alice, do you want to plug anything?
Yes, I have a weekly podcast called The Gargle, which is a satirical news show with no politics. I also have a weekly show called Tea with Alice, where I have difficult conversations with interesting people, and a monthly show called The Last Post, which is a satirical news show set in an alternate dimension, all of which can be found at patreon.com/Alice Fraser.
Tea with Alice was really great this week with comedian Craig Quartermain, friend of the show. Ross, have you got anything to plug?
I do, yes. I have my podcast called Ross Noble Podcast. It's myself and Ed Cavalier, and we're supposed to be talking about we're supposed to deconstruct music videos, but we've done 32 episodes, I think it is now, and we have yet to finish talking about Shania Twain's "That Don't Impress Me Much." But
has there been a lot of Jason Statham on that podcast?
No, there's a lot of Statham. There's a lot of Statham, a lot of Nicolas Cage, and we started a new feature by accident called Barrel Chat, where we talk extensively about barrels. So that's a bit of fun. And then I'm gonna be in Perth coming up. I can't really say why I'm here. I'm on a bit of a secret. Which I'm working on this thing, which I can't really talk about. God! While I'm here,
is it Secession?
Are you going to be the independent member for Perth in the next election? This is what's going to happen.
I am going to be Mrs. Margaret River, Mr. Margaret River. Joan Rivers' daughter you never hear about. But I'm doing a show. I'm doing a show at the because one of the advantages of the fact that I'm now in Perth working on this secret thing, so I'm putting on an extra show. So at the Regal in the next when am I out of quarantine? Just look at the website. It'll be on there. It's the only stand-up comedy show in Australia in the next 6 months. So I would come and see it if I was.
Yeah, if you love comedy, go see Ross Noble. I hear he's great. Simon, do you want to plug Climate 200?
Yeah, we started a fundraiser for Climate 200. We've had over 300 people donate so far.
That's 100 too
if
many,
you go to-
Simon. It's includes in the number.
Yeah, we're going to have to change the name to Climate 2000. But please go to climate200.com.au and find out some more about us. And if you can donate, that's fantastic. Even $5 shows that people are behind the idea. And even if you hop on Twitter and retweet to all your friends and nudge all your friends, we're going to make a real difference at the next election.
Lewis, anything to plug?
No, nothing for me, Dan. Just I'm just at home alone all the time. So
Can I? If you're not going to plug anything, I forgot something. If it's all right,
please.
I made a nature documentary. It's on YouTube. It's called the Unnatural History Show with Ross Noble. But all of the animals, all of the creatures in it are fictional. They're all like puppets and
Awesome.
That counts as my plug. That's my plug.
Yeah,
I'm plugging Ross Noble's YouTube show.
Yeah, I take my plug back. I'll plug that too. That sounds great.
So Unnatural History Show on YouTube. If you like Labyrinth, you'll probably quite like this. There you go.
Big thanks to Road Marks, the Bertha Foundation, our Patreon supporters. We've got some new Patreon supporters this week: Zaphod, John Englard, Stuart Ecob, Megan Sheila, artist Maz Dixon has actually doubled her contribution. So thank you, Maz Dixon. Awesome. Remember, if you become one of the first 10 people to subscribe to Patreon this month at $50 a month, you'll get a little dedication to our ScoMo plaques that are going out across the seat of Cook. So please jump on our Patreon for $50 a month. Until next week, there's always something to be scared of. Good night. Thanks, everyone. That was marvelous.
Cool.
That was really fun.
All right, pressing stop on my
Thanks,
recorder.
Dan.
Pressing stop. Thanks, Ross. Appreciate that. Thank you, Simon. Thank you, Alice.
No worries at all.
Is
All right.
WeTransfer okay, Dan?
Retransfer's fine, or email is fine. Yeah, totally good.
Sweet.
All right,
Appreciate
see
it,
ya,
Ross.
folks.
See you, mate.
See
Bye.
ya.
Bye. Good luck.
Bye.
Let me just click.